Jefferson High School sat in the middle of a peaceful suburban neighborhood, surrounded by trimmed hedges and quiet sidewalks. The school had never made headlines. It was just another typical public high school, filled with morning announcements, crowded hallways, and football games on Friday nights. That made what happened on an October morning even more disturbing. The day started like any other. Students shuffled in through the double doors, half awake and holding on to their coffee cups or energy drinks. Teachers stood at their doors, greeting students, while the janitor made his usual early rounds. At exactly 7:45 a.m., the janitor unlocked the boys' restroom in the science wing, the same one he cleaned every day without incident. But today was different. When he pushed the door open, the metallic smell hit him first. His eyes adjusted to the dim fluorescent light, and then he saw it, blood smeared across the tiled floor, pooling near the back stall. His hand trembled as he reached for his radio, his keys slipping from his grip and hitting the floor with a sharp clatter. Within minutes, the school was in lockdown. Police arrived, and the area was cordoned off. Inside the last stall, slumped against the wall, was Ryan McNeil. Just 16 years old, Ryan was known for his bright smile, athletic build, and friendly nature. He was a track team star and had recently applied for college scholarships. But now, he was lifeless, his head crushed by blunt force trauma. The coroner would later confirm that he had been struck multiple times with a heavy object, likely a hammer. A blood-smeared claw hammer was discovered behind the trash can, tucked away as if someone had tried to hide it. It was clear this wasn't an accident. This was a deliberate, brutal attack. News of the murder spread rapidly. Local reporters gathered outside the school, broadcasting updates as shocked parents arrived, demanding answers. Rumors took over social media, with students speculating about what had happened. Some claimed Ryan had enemies. Others believed it was a random act, perhaps someone who had broken into the school. Theories escalated quickly, with students claiming they had seen a strange figure around campus the previous week. The administration stayed silent, refusing to confirm anything beyond Ryan's identity and time of death. It didn't help that the security cameras in the science hallway had stopped recording just minutes before the attack. Technicians blamed a system malfunction, but the timing was suspicious. Someone had planned this well. The school community was shaken. Parents demanded extra security. Students whispered in the halls, avoiding the restroom entirely. The staff tried to maintain order, but the fear was undeniable. Ryan's locker remained untouched, covered in cards, flowers, and candles. His friends struggled to process the loss. No one had seen this coming. The investigation was officially launched that evening. Detectives began questioning students and reviewing whatever footage was available. Everyone wanted to know who would kill a bright, promising teenager, and why they had chosen a school bathroom to do it. The only thing everyone agreed on was that things would never feel normal again. Detectives wasted no time diving into Ryan McNeil's life. They interviewed his friends, teachers, and classmates, hoping to uncover any possible reason someone would want him dead. On the surface, Ryan appeared to be the kind of student every parent wished for: polite, focused, and socially active. But beneath the perfect image, there were cracks beginning to form. Just a week before his death, Ryan had been involved in a heated argument with another student, Dylan Franks. The disagreement had started over a missing phone, but it escalated quickly in the cafeteria. Staff had to break it up before it turned physical. Witnesses described Dylan as angry and out of control. That made him the first serious suspect. Detectives brought Dylan in for questioning. He didn't deny the fight, but he insisted he had nothing to do with Ryan's death. He claimed he was in the gym early that morning, practicing free throws alone before class started. Surveillance from the gym confirmed his presence during most of the critical time frame, but a few minutes remained unaccounted for. Still, it wasn't enough to charge him. Investigators kept him on their radar but moved on to other leads. Ryan's phone was searched next. Most of his messages were harmless: chats with friends, school reminders, memes. But buried among them were two strange texts from an unknown number, sent late at night 2 days before his death. The first one read, "You shouldn't have gone in there." The second said, "You're not safe anymore." The number was a burner, purchased with cash and untraceable. It led to a dead end. Rumors were now fueling the investigation more than evidence. Some students claimed Ryan had been talking about something strange he saw in the school. Others said he was scared in his final days, constantly looking over his shoulder. A teacher mentioned that Ryan had reported strange noises in the science wing bathroom a week earlier, footsteps when no one else was around, and banging sounds from inside the walls. Maintenance checked and found nothing unusual. It was dismissed as stress, but now it felt more important. Detectives began piecing together a timeline of Ryan's last week, trying to determine if he was being followed or watched. They found a disturbing pattern. He had been using that particular bathroom more often than usual, always around the same time in the morning. It looked almost ritualistic, like he was returning to the scene of something he wasn't supposed to witness. Attention turned toward the school staff. One name stood out: Arthur Bell, a quiet janitor who had been hired just 5 weeks prior. Most of the students barely noticed him, and even the teachers described him as polite but distant. A background check revealed he had changed his name legally last year, but the file didn't explain why. When asked about the murder, Arthur said he had been cleaning the other side of the school and didn't see anything suspicious. His story couldn't be confirmed. That made investigators uneasy. Something about him felt off, and the timing of his employment was just too convenient. 10 days after Ryan McNeil's murder, frustration settled over the investigation. Leads had gone cold, and the suspect list was thinning out. The school tried to return to a sense of normalcy, but the shadow of the crime hung over every hallway. Students walked faster, avoided being alone, and skipped the science wing altogether. Teachers kept a closer eye on behavior. Still, fear was beginning to turn into paranoia. That changed when an unexpected breakthrough arrived from the most unlikely place. Ms. Hanley, an English teacher, had been working on a documentary project with her students and had left a GoPro camera running overnight in her classroom to test time-lapse recording. The camera, by coincidence, faced a narrow window that gave a partial view of the science wing hallway. When she reviewed the footage, she didn't expect to see anything useful, but at precisely 7:38 a.m. on the morning of the murder, something alarming appeared. A figure, cloaked in a black hoodie and jeans, walked into the boys' restroom where Ryan was later found. In his right hand, he carried an object, something long, dark, and metallic-looking. It was a hammer. The image was blurry, but the shape was unmistakable. 3 minutes later, the figure emerged without the hammer and moved out of view. The footage sent chills through everyone who saw it. The time matched the estimated time of death. Though the image didn't show the person's face, investigators were certain they were looking at the killer. Now they had a visual, and the figure's height and build became a new point of analysis. Several officers concluded that the body type closely resembled Arthur Bell. The height, the way he walked, it was too close to ignore. Bell was brought in for more questioning, but he denied any involvement. His responses were calm, measured, almost mechanical. He claimed he was cleaning the locker room across campus at that exact time. But no one saw him there, and there was no camera footage to back it up. His uniform from that day had already been laundered. With no physical evidence to link him directly to the murder, detectives had to let him go again. Still, they requested access to his personnel file and dug deeper into his past. A surprising discovery was made in an old archived school district record from another town. Arthur Bell had worked at a different high school under a different name, Lucas Arnold. The records revealed he left his position suddenly after an incident involving a missing student. That student, 14-year-old Eric Long, had vanished without a trace. Authorities at the time were unable to find enough evidence to charge anyone, and the case eventually went cold. Bell changed his name and disappeared shortly after. With this new information, investigators became convinced that Ryan's death was not random. It was part of a pattern. Someone had slipped through the cracks before, and now he might be repeating his crimes under a new identity. As the investigation intensified, the school atmosphere grew heavier. Parents voiced outrage at board meetings, demanding Arthur Bell be arrested, but legally, the police still didn't have enough. Bell had gone on leave following the second round of questioning and quietly disappeared from town 2 days later. His phone was turned off, his apartment abandoned, and no one had seen him leave. A missing person bulletin was issued, but Bell had already vanished without a trace. That's when the next disturbing message appeared. A week after Bell disappeared, a student walked into the same boys' restroom in the science wing and found something horrifying. Written across the mirror in dripping red letters were the words, You didn't listen. Next time, more blood." Panic spread like wildfire. Police were called immediately, and the restroom was shut down again. Forensics later confirmed the writing was made with pig's blood stolen from the school's biology lab. The act wasn't fatal, but it was deeply psychological. It was a taunt. A warning. Now it seemed clear that the killer was still nearby. Whether it was Bell or someone else was still uncertain, but the message shattered any illusion of safety. Fear took over the school. Students refused to use the bathrooms alone. Teachers escorted kids in groups to the restroom between classes. Parents threatened to withdraw their children unless something was done. The hallway where Ryan had died became silent and avoided, even in daylight. Detectives searched deeper into Bell's life, tracking down anyone who had known him during his earlier years. One former co-worker remembered his obsession with what he called purification, vague ramblings about cleansing places of evil. Bell had no criminal record, but his behavior had always been strange. He had once been found staring at a student for over an hour during detention, but brushed it off as daydreaming. At the time, no one had connected it to anything sinister. Things escalated when police discovered that Bell had been renting a storage unit outside of town under the name Lewis Burke. When investigators opened it, what they found confirmed their darkest fears. Inside the small unit were dozens of handwritten notebooks, maps of Jefferson High, class schedules, and pages filled with unsettling symbols and phrases. One particular page had Ryan's name circled in red, along with a timeline of his daily habits. Another simply read, Phase 1, complete. There were drawings too, sketches of bathrooms, stall doors, and hidden hatches. Most disturbing was a crude list of other students' names, some crossed out, some not. One name had a red X over it, Ryan McNeil. The other names were unknown to investigators but matched real students currently enrolled at the school. The documents pointed to the fact that Ryan may not have been the only target. Now the case shifted from a murder investigation to a manhunt. The killer had a plan, and Ryan had been just the beginning. Investigators feared the worst. Another attack could come at any moment. The race to stop it had begun. With the discovery of the storage unit and the disturbing contents inside, Jefferson High School became the center of a full-scale manhunt. The list of names found in the notebooks was immediately matched with students, all of whom were placed under protective watch. Local police worked with school staff to create a security plan, but anxiety ran deep. Everyone knew that whoever had written those words, whether it was Arthur Bell or someone else, had already struck once and had every intention of striking again. The question was no longer why, but when. Surveillance throughout the school was increased. Hidden cameras were installed in every hallway and bathroom. Undercover officers posed as maintenance workers and substitute teachers. Even plainclothes patrols were stationed nearby. The restroom where Ryan had been killed remained sealed, its door locked and taped shut. Still, something about the silence felt threatening. The notebooks had mentioned Phase 2, but no one knew what it meant or when it would happen. Then, after nearly 2 weeks of tense quiet, the camera in the cafeteria hallway caught movement in the early morning hours. It was a hooded figure entering the building through a service door at 6:50 a.m., nearly an hour before students arrived. The figure moved swiftly, avoiding the main halls and heading directly toward the science wing. A team of officers watching the live feed recognized the same build and gait as the figure seen on the GoPro footage weeks earlier. Within seconds, teams were dispatched. They found the figure inside the old sealed boys' restroom, kneeling in front of the same stall where Ryan had died. In his bag, officers found a hammer, rope, duct tape, and a printed photo of a current student whose name had been on the list in the notebook. But the man arrested wasn't Arthur Bell. It was Ethan Crow, a quiet senior who had never drawn attention. He was top of his class, rarely spoke in public, and had no history of violence. His confession stunned everyone. He told police that Bell was his uncle, though no direct family records had shown that before. Years earlier, Ethan said Bell had taken him in for a summer when his mother was hospitalized. That's when the indoctrination began. Bell had shared journals with him, taught him about his twisted beliefs, and described a mission to rid the world of hidden corruption. Ethan had believed it, absorbing everything. He claimed that Ryan had caught him acting suspicious in the restroom weeks before and had threatened to report him. That moment, Ethan said, was when Bell told him it was time to act. Arthur Bell had coached him from afar, never doing the killing himself but planting the seeds. Ryan was just the first in what was meant to be a series of cleansings. Bell's whereabouts remained unknown. Authorities believed he had fled the state or worse, assumed another identity. Ethan was arrested and charged with murder, conspiracy, and attempted kidnapping. The case left a permanent scar on Jefferson High. The restroom was permanently sealed, and a plaque was placed in Ryan's honor near the science wing. Students still speak of echoes in the hallways and hammering sounds behind the walls. Though Ethan was caught, one chilling truth remained: the one who started it all was still out there, watching, waiting.